Are you brave enough to uncover the secrets hidden within this abandoned house? A blanket of cold air settled around it, the mist swirling like ghostly figures in the night. The house stood silent, a relic of a forgotten time, its windows like dark, empty eyes staring into the void. Ethan and Mark stood at the edge of the overgrown lawn, its silhouette a jagged wound against the moonlit sky. The mansion loomed before them, its once grand facade now crumbling and covered in ivy, a testament to years of neglect. "You sure about this?" Mark's voice was barely a murmur, his breath visible in the cold night air. His eyes darted around nervously, taking in the ominous surroundings. Ethan grinned, a flash of teeth in the darkness. His eyes gleamed with excitement, a stark contrast to Mark's apprehension. "Don't tell me you're scared," he taunted, his voice dripping with confidence. The thrill of the unknown seemed to fuel his courage. Mark tried to laugh, but it came out choked, a hollow sound that echoed in the stillness of the night. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of his growing fear. Ethan was already moving towards the house, each footstep crunching on dead leaves. The sound seemed to reverberate through the night, a stark reminder of their intrusion into this forgotten place. Mark followed, dread coiling in his gut like a snake ready to strike. Every step felt heavier, the weight of his fear pressing down on him. The front door creaked open, revealing an abyss of inky black. The sound was like a whisper from the past, inviting them into the unknown. Ethan, undeterred, pulled out a flashlight and stepped inside. The beam of light cut through the darkness, revealing glimpses of the decayed interior. Mark hesitated for a moment longer, then followed, the darkness seeming to reach out and pull him in. The air inside was thick with the scent of mold and decay, a stark contrast to the cold, crisp air outside. Every creak of the floorboards under their feet seemed to echo through the empty halls, a reminder of the house's long-forgotten past. I will never forget the moment Ethan's flashlight cut through the gloom, revealing peeling wallpaper and furniture draped in cobwebs. "Hello?" Ethan's voice echoed eerily in the silence. Mark shivered. "Don't do that." They moved deeper into the house, the only sounds the crunch of their footsteps and the faint rustling of unseen things. Then Mark heard it, a whisper, soft as a breath against his ear. He stopped, turning his head, but there was nothing there. "Did you hear that?" Ethan glanced back, his expression curious. "Hear what?" Mark hesitated, doubt creeping in. "Nothing," he muttered, pushing the sound to the back of his mind. "I bet you didn't know how eerie an old staircase can be." As they ascended, each step seemed to echo with an unnatural resonance. "This place is huge," Ethan said, his voice echoing strangely around them. "Too big," Mark said. "Let's head back." Ethan laughed, but the sound was cut short. A chill ran down Mark's spine as he realized the laughter echoing wasn't Ethan's. It was distorted, mocking. He whirled around, searching the shadows at the top of the stairs, his heart pounding in his chest. Why are there not more people talking about the eerie symbols that haunt old houses? The upstairs hallway was a labyrinth of shadows and closed doors. Each step Ethan took echoed ominously, the sound swallowed by the oppressive darkness. The air was thick with an unsettling silence, broken only by the occasional creak of the old wooden floorboards beneath his feet. One door stood ajar, a pale light emanating from within. It was the only source of illumination in the otherwise pitch-black corridor, casting long, eerie shadows that danced on the walls. The light seemed to beckon him, a silent invitation that he couldn't resist. Ethan, drawn by curiosity, approached it, pushing it open with a groan. The door's hinges protested loudly, the sound reverberating through the hallway like a mournful wail. His heart pounded in his chest, each beat a reminder of the unknown that lay ahead. The room was bare except for a single chair and a circle painted on the floor in what looked like dried blood. The sight sent a shiver down his spine. The circle was intricate, filled with symbols and lines that seemed to pulse with a life of their own. It was as if the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. As Ethan moved closer, the air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. It felt as though the very walls were closing in on him, the atmosphere thick with an almost tangible sense of dread. Each step he took felt like wading through molasses, the air itself resisting his advance. He reached out to touch the symbol, and a voice, cold and sharp as shattered glass, echoed through the room. "Get out!" The words sliced through the air, filled with a malevolent force that made his blood run cold. It was a command, not a suggestion, and it left no room for defiance. The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. It reverberated off the walls, creating an echo that seemed to linger in the air long after the words had been spoken. The room felt alive, as if it were watching him, waiting for his next move. Ethan stumbled back, his face pale, his mind raced, trying to make sense of what he had just experienced. Fear gripped him, its icy fingers wrapping around his heart. He felt a primal urge to flee, to escape the oppressive atmosphere that threatened to consume him. Mark, fear lending him strength, grabbed Ethan's arm and pulled him out of the room, slamming the door shut behind them. The sound of the door closing was like a final punctuation mark, sealing off the terror that lay within. They stood in the hallway, breathing heavily, the weight of what they had just encountered pressing down on them. The symbol of dread had left its mark, a chilling reminder of the unknown horrors that lurked in the shadows. Are you terrified to face the unknown? They ran, their footsteps pounding on the wooden floor, the whispers chasing after them, growing louder, more insistent. Mark could feel the house pressing in on them, the darkness alive with unseen eyes. "We need to get out of here," Mark gasped, his lungs burning, but Ethan seemed transfixed, his eyes wide with a mixture of fear and fascination. "This is incredible. Incredible! Are you crazy? This place is evil!" Mark screamed, his voice hoarse with terror. He grabbed Ethan's arm, trying to pull him towards the staircase. Why are there not more people talking about houses that change their layout? They reached the top of the stairs, but the layout of the house seemed to have shifted. The staircase now led down to a dead end, the wall ahead solid and unyielding. "What's going on?" Ethan stammered, his bravado finally gone. Panic clawed at Mark's throat. "It's a maze," he choked out. "The house, it's changing. Everybody's looking for a way out, but sometimes there is no escape." Mark could feel his sanity slipping, the oppressive atmosphere of the house seeping into his bones. Suddenly, the floor beneath Ethan's feet gave way. He cried out, his fingers scrabbling for purchase, but it was too late. The floor seemed to melt away, swallowing him whole. Mark watched in horror as his friend vanished into the darkness, his screams echoing through the void. "Ethan!" Mark screamed, his voice raw with terror and despair. But there was no answer, only the echoing silence and the whispers that seemed to be closing in on him. "I bet you didn't know how silence can be so deafening." Mark was alone. The silence around him was a void that seemed to swallow every sound, every breath. He could feel the weight of the darkness pressing down on him, an oppressive force that made it hard to think, hard to breathe. He stumbled back from the edge of the abyss, his blood turning to ice in his veins. The darkness was not just an absence of light, it was a presence, a malevolent entity that seemed to reach out with invisible tendrils, seeking to ensnare him. Each step he took felt like a step deeper into a nightmare from which there was no escape. The floor seemed to pulsate beneath his feet, the house a living, breathing entity, toying with him before it consumed him too. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with a sense of impending doom. Every creak, every groan of the old house felt like a sinister whisper, a promise of the horrors that awaited him. He wanted to scream, to run, but his limbs wouldn't obey. It was as if the darkness had seeped into his very bones, freezing him in place. His mouth opened, but no sound came out, his voice stolen by the oppressive silence that surrounded him. He was paralyzed by fear, his eyes wide with the horrifying truth. He was trapped, just as Ethan had been, destined to become another lost soul within the walls of this cursed place. The realization hit him like a physical blow, the weight of it almost too much to bear. He could see Ethan's face in his mind, twisted in terror, a mirror of his own fear. The darkness pressed in, the whispers growing louder, their icy fingers tracing patterns on his skin. They seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, a cacophony of voices that spoke of despair, of hopelessness. Each whisper was a needle, pricking at his sanity, driving him closer to the edge. He closed his eyes, surrendering to the darkness, the chilling whispers his only company in the suffocating silence. In that moment, he felt a strange sense of peace, a resignation to his fate. The darkness was no longer an enemy, but a companion, a final embrace that promised an end to the fear, to the pain. As he let go, the whispers seemed to lull him into a deep, dreamless sleep, the silence finally engulfing him completely. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more haunting tales. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss a chilling story. Share your thoughts in the comments below. What would you do if you were trapped in the darkness? Stay tuned for more spine-tingling adventures.